All right, we are live back with the Super Fantasy Bros podcast. Today we'll be breaking down week 9 and doing the usual calm or chaos and trust or bust. Unfortunately, our man T Gods could not be with us. He's got some family over. So it's just us three for the podcast today. He's actually got some family in town, so he will be out tomorrow as well.
Shout out to T Gods for the new overlay though.
Oh,
Yeah, shout
yeah.
out.
Shout out
Putting the
producer
question
behind the
back.
scenes. He's here with us. He's not here live at the moment. Before we get into the podcast, there's obviously a handful of new injuries to discuss. So let's start from the top. Not as big of an injury week as we usually get, though. So that's good to say the least. But if you are a David Johnson owner, you are a little upset. He got concussed this past week. They're saying he's week to week. Do you guys like Duke Johnson moving forward?
I mean, there's no one else. Like, who else are they gonna turn? What other running back is there on that offense? I honestly don't know, but we've seen Duke Johnson finish top 10 in running backs before, so he has talent. Um, will they turn to him much?
They
As
have to.
I mean, like they could just throw the ball, but either way, Duke Johnson's a great ability
Right.
of passing, catching the ball. But yeah, you're not feeling good owning David Johnson just because he didn't practice today, and usually when their player who's going through a concussion isn't practicing, he probably will be out.
Yeah, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, not a good sign at all for David Johnson, but for Duke Johnson, I definitely agree. I think he's a solid pickup. If he's out there in your league, he's definitely going to be have some value at least for this week, depending on how long this lingers. The only other running back's name that I even recognize on this roster is CJ Procise. So
Oh, I forgot about him. Old Seahawk guy.
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't want him.
exactly. So it's going to be the Duke Johnson show if David Johnson misses.
He's gonna get fed.
The next big injury, Justin Jackson. Q, I guess you can speak on this one a little bit, but he pretty much came in on the first play and hurt his knee. And then they said he could have came back in the game if necessary, if they were in like a playoff kind of position, but they held him out as a precaution. And it looks like he's going to miss this week as well. So what do you think? What do you make of the Chargers backfield right now?
It's very confusing if Pope comes back. If he doesn't come back, they'll obviously bring back Balaj from the practice squad, and I see him putting in more work than Kelly, who's been extremely disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kelly definitely has been disappointing. He was struggling up into that last drive where he actually got a couple of catches and garbage time that saved his day if you started him like I had to with some bye weeks. But yeah, Kalen Balaj looked pretty solid. I think they're going to bring him back up. The only thing I would be scared of is Troy Maine Pope coming back from injury as well. He should be healthy for them, and he looked pretty good 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be a mixed bag this week if you start a Chargers running back. Good luck.
Best of luck.
For sure. The other injury, another running back injury, was to David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. He got a concussion, and it looks like he's going to be week to week, similar to David Johnson. I apologize. Similar to David Johnson, he's going to be week to week, but I don't think there's a startable Bears running back after David.
Maybe Cordell Patterson
That's the only option. Cordell Patterson.
Patterson?
or Lamar Miller. They bring him back up from the practice squad.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I did forget they had him.
Relevant running backs who
I think the Bears
should
forgot
no
they
longer
had
have
him.
a job.
No slander on Lamar Miller's name on this podcast while I'm here.
He sucks.
Add him to the list of guys you made slander for Sean.
No, it's okay. You could slander Lamar Miller at this point in his career. The only other running back they would have would be Ryan Nall, and he's barely touched the ball all season.
He was pretty. I think he caught a few passes, but
He was okay.
I mean, no one's starting him. No, actually, I'm confusing him with the other guy on the Dolphins, Laird.
Oh, he
Lard.
actually
Phillip
no.
Laird
Ryan
or
Nall
whatever
actually
his
did
name
have 4 catches for 35 yards and a touchdown,
All right, so I'm right.
which
For
is
once.
shocking to say the least. But yeah, I would just avoid this backfield as a whole if Montgomery does not play, to say the least.
It's a fuster cluck, as we like to call it.
Keep it PG.
Yeah, exactly. The next injuries we have here, Kyle Allen and Matt Stafford, both quarterbacks that got injured. Stafford could be back as soon as this week, but Kyle Allen will definitely miss some time. So just monitor Stafford if you have any Lions. I think it downgrades the whole offense with Chase Daniel coming in just a little bit. But for Kyle Allen, I mean, Alex Smith is now going to be there instead of Kyle Allen. Does he change this offense at all? I think it's pretty much the same in my opinion.
It's the same, but he
Yeah.
also does he's like a quarterback that likes to play it safe. So I would maybe a bigger production from the running backs. And that's why McKissick did so well last week. But other than that, if you have McLaurin, he's fine. That's about it.
I might drop McLaurin down just a tad bit because Alex Smith isn't really known for slinging the ball.
Yeah.
Kyle Allen was doing a great job at getting McLaurin the ball downfield, even occasionally getting Logan Thomas involved. But I just don't see Alex Smith really being the big thrower that Kyle Allen was.
2 times in that statement, you sounded country. He said Kyle Allen, and then he said, I forget what else you said. But I just called it twice.
Sorry. I was down south.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kyle Allen was pushing the envelope a little bit more than Alex Smith will. But Logan Thomas did finish with 6 targets in this game, even though he only caught, I believe, 2 passes. So I do like him with Alex Smith. I think he likes to check it down to his tight end a lot as well. But yeah, I think McLaurin maybe a little bit, but he's been so solid and so pretty much quarterback proof. Yeah. So I think you got to keep rolling McLaurin out there with confidence.
If he can do well with Kyle Allen, he could do well with just about anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Any other injuries that are lingering or being talked about here? Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's you want to make sure just monitor until Friday practice reports or any other reports. It's not looking like McCaffrey's going to play this week. Yeah. But for pretty much all these big injuries that are still going on, just monitor practice reports, wait until Friday, stay calm until then.
Hopefully you guys listened and kept Mike Davis on your team.
Yeah, even if you don't own Christian McCaffrey and you didn't hold on to Mike Davis, that was foolish of you.
Right. 1 game back and you expect that McCaffrey, I mean, he played like he was perfectly fine, but 37 points.
Well. He played like probably the second best running back last week.
Yeah. Behind the guy you're wearing. But anyways, let's get into some calm or chaos. Now, there's a lot of guys that struggled, but let's just start off with the entire Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense because that game was sloppy, to say the least.
Yeah, it was ugly.
Yeah, Tom Brady struggled mightily through multiple interceptions, was throwing it across his body, across the field, trying to just pretty much force anything. It was bad. Ronald Jones struggled as well. It looks like Leonard Fournette might be the one that's going to be more involved, especially when they're down, obviously, in passing situations. They prefer Fournette to be catching passes. Godwin, AB, Gronk, even Mike Evans did okay at best. What do you make of this offense? Is this a fluke? What do you think?
This week was definitely fluky. I think that whole offense is just going to be way too unpredictable throughout the season to really rely on one player. I mean, Tom Brady, throughout this season so far, he's been known to spread the ball around. He finally has all of his weapons healthy. So, I mean, this game was definitely fluky. I don't see the Buccaneers putting up just 3 points at any other point again this season. But it's going to be hard to have like one solidified guy that you like out of that offense week in and week out.
Yeah, there's not too many like Tom Brady games in his career that he's probably scored single-digit points. I may have had him for one before.
That's unheard of.
But when I put the poll up yesterday on Instagram asking like what Patriots, what Bucks wide receiver, not counting Gronk or Cameron Brate, do you trust the most? And I think it was 1 vote higher for Mike Evans over Godwin.
Ooh, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah,
maybe just because of Godwin's finger injury, you might be scared.
Yeah. It went in the order Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, and I just threw Scotty Miller in there, and he got 1 vote. It was from Duffy, but I don't know if that was just to be a troll.
He was probably drunk.
Yeah, definitely cannot trust Scotty Miller out of that group. Yeah, I think it's just going to be like Brady's going to be able to spread the ball around a ton, and you're going to get annoyed when Scotty Miller ends up catching one of the touchdowns, which is probably going to happen. But I think Godwin, Mike Evans, AB, Gronk, I think they'll all have better days ahead, especially basically this whole offense. Like, this was just such a weird game. So I think you have to stay calm on everybody. If you're going to be nervous about anyone, I would be nervous about like Gronk and AB, but even Gronk had an end zone target again. So just stay calm, see what happens this week with this full set of weapons. You're probably excited to see how it looked against the Saints, but they should definitely bounce back against the Panthers.
It didn't look too hot last week.
Yeah. If they struggle again next week, then we might be in some chaos for this
That
entire
sucks.
offense.
That's a lot of talented players that you just might have to like just chalk.
Yeah. Which is horrible for fantasy. Next one here, quarterbacks. We'll start with Lamar Jackson. He's been pretty frequent on calm or chaos, which is not good for Lamar Jackson owners. 170 passing yards, 13 carries for 58 yards, and 1 touchdown. His last 4 games in terms of fantasy points in our league, which is 6-point passing touchdowns, 17, 29, 18, 17. Is this calm or chaos on Lamar at this point?
I'm gonna go out and call it chaos.
Yeah, it's still chaos.
People are complaining that Cam can't really throw the ball, but Lamar has only had 3 games of 200 plus passing yards, and 2 of those 3 games were weeks 1 and 2. So if he's not getting it done on the ground, he's not getting it done at all.
Fantasy is like revolutionized into the like you need a quarterback to be able to run and throw to like put up QB1 numbers, and where you drafted Lamar was not like he's not obviously what you wanted him to be. He's staying relevant because of his rushing ability. Like if his name wasn't Lamar Jackson, would you want a quarterback with these? Like, would you feel good with the quarterback putting up these numbers the last 4 weeks? I guess not mentioning the draft where he was drafted. Like I guess it's solid. But then when you mentioned that people were taking him in the first round, that's not solid.
No.
Yeah. Like I still think Lamar Jackson's startable. I still think you have to like if you have him, the upside is still there. He's still the MVP from last season. And obviously the last couple of games he's played against some pretty good defenses, the Colts, the Steelers, and even the Eagles defense in week 6. That was pretty much his last good game, and that was against a pretty tough run defense.
Weren't we asked a week or 2 ago Herbert or Lamar Jackson to start?
Yeah, and
I'm feeling Herbert's a little better rest of the season, maybe.
Rest of the season, maybe.
Yeah, I might agree with you.
Lamar might be a good buy low target just based off of his playoff schedule.
He has
the Browns, the Giants, and the Jags.
And they still have Dallas, Tennessee, and the Patriots, and you're
Okay.
not scared of any of those defenses. The only one you're scared of is at Pittsburgh in week 12.
That's like the really only tough matchup he has remaining. And aside from that, he could just go off the rest of them weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how much I trust
But
him.
also you got to think like his receiving targets are like just as not irrelevant because Lamar's not irrelevant, but like they're close to irrelevant. Marquise Brown,
Hollywood sucks.
Mark
Willie
Andrews
Snead
getting there.
sucks. Mark Andrews is just based off how bad tight end has been this year.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
He's still up there.
Yeah, he's still up there, but
Yeah, we'll talk about Mark Andrews in a little bit for sure. But Lamar Jackson, it's got to be chaos right now. But I think there's really not much better options out there unless you picked up Herbert off of waivers or like you drafted somebody else late as a backup and they have been playing well. Like if you got Aaron Rodgers later or something. I'm nervous about Lamar, but I still think you got to keep rolling him out there.
you have to.
Next quarterback here, Matt Stafford, 211 yards and 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions before getting hurt. I think, is this F's in the chat for Matt Stafford? Are you dropping him?
Yes, sir.
Mm,
I'm dumping him.
I mean, I guess I want to wait till Galladay comes back, but even with Galladay, he still wasn't too
Yeah,
impressive.
he wasn't looking too hot.
Yeah,
It's sad.
It sucks because I had him. So as a Stafford owner, I did drop him before waivers even started just because I was so angry that I started him.
It'd be like that sometimes.
I actually, when he wasn't going to play, picked up Drew Lock. If I had started Drew Lock, I would have won. Instead, I started Stafford when he came back. Let's not get into all that. But yeah, I think Stafford is definitely droppable at this point and definitely benchable if you have another option. Even someone's not as trustworthy, like Stafford's usually been reliable. I would definitely feel free to take a risk on somebody like Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, whoever's out there.
Nick
Baker?
Foles, maybe.
Baker's
Baker?
a little risky,
Yeah.
but Baker this week might be pretty solid against Houston. As long as it's not super windy again, like their game against the Raiders. All right, let's get into some running backs. Let's start at the very top 5 running backs pretty much every week this season. Derrick Henry, 21 carries for 68 yards and 0 catches. 6 fantasy points. Is this calm or chaos?
Relax.
It's calm, but he does have these types of games.
Right.
I don't understand
What
how.
was this, like the first game that he had in single-digit fantasy points?
I think it's the
No,
second.
yeah,
I
he
think
had
he had
another
one
one.
other one.
2 out of 8, because I'm pretty sure he already had his bye. So
No, he gets no bye because of the COVID thing.
No,
So
they missed a
Okay,
He
game.
already
yeah,
had
yeah.
his bye.
Yeah.
I'm saying, come on, Derrick Henry.
yeah,
He was
week
the
2,
rushing
he-
champ last year. I mean, they feed him. The carries were still there. He had 21 carries. The workload is undeniable, and he's bound to break one eventually.
Yeah, week 2 he had 8 points and then had nothing under 15 since then. And he's also had either 2 touchdowns or 1 touchdown. So yeah, you got to stay calm.
Yeah.
You got to stay calm just because of how much they use him in the red zone. Like as much as you can't bank on touchdowns, like he's one you definitely can bank on touchdowns. They just feed him the ball as soon as they get close. And you got to stay calm just because these games, like you said, I think these games happen every once in a while. He doesn't have that floor with receiving like some of the other top
Yeah.
backs do, like Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook,
Pretty much all of them.
McCaffrey. Yeah, pretty much all running backs are more involved in the passing game than Derrick Henry is. Derrick Henry has like, I think 5 catches in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
So he's just not going to be involved in the passing game. So you need him to get those yards and fall into the end zone. And
Which he
that just
can
didn't
do.
happen.
Do not deny that.
good at
He
that.
can do that.
Exactly. He's very good at that. So this
Very
is
good at running the ball and scoring touchdowns.
yeah, this is more fluky than anything, but his upcoming schedule, if you're like looking for a playoff spot and you're out of the playoffs right now, I'd be looking to try and get him into a playoff team and get someone that can help you right now. He is playing the Colts twice in the next 2 weeks and at Baltimore.
And
So for the
Washington, they're not a joke either.
Yeah,
on that
Washington's
defensive line.
defense has looked good.
So that schedule is tough to say the least. I'd be a little bit nervous about that. But other than that, I mean, you're probably still rolling Derrick Henry out there if you have him, no doubt. All right, next running back here is Jonathan Taylor. So they obviously were losing to the Ravens for the majority of this game, but he had 6 carries for 27 yards and did find the end zone, thankfully. But he also had 2 catches for 7 yards and lost a fumble for only 8 fantasy points. And this is back-to-back rough performances for people that have been relying on him. Is this calm or chaos?
It's starting
Chaos.
to scare me a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was chaos last week. Last week it could have been early, but Wilkins did not get the 20 touches. That was kind of expected.
I mean, Wilkins still had more carries than JT did. Wilkins had 11. Jonathan Taylor, I think, only had 6.
Jonathan Taylor does, though. He has the name that he was like the draft. He was drafted in this draft to be the guy. So that's what's going for him. I mean, going forward, I don't know what it's going to be like. But this is definitely chaos because he hasn't had too many great performances like early on, I'd say, and they weren't even that great then.
Yeah, I definitely think it's nerve-wracking, but I also think the matchup had a little bit to do with it this past week, as well as 2 weeks ago, the ankle injury. And I don't know if that's still lingering, or if he's like fully healthy, whatnot. If Wilkins continues to get carries like this, it's looking like it's going to be more of a timeshare. But I still think Taylor's talent is way more than Jordan Wilkins. They've had Wilkins on this roster for a couple of years now, so I think Taylor will start to shine through, and I think it might even come this week. Tennessee's pretty bad run defense, so
They allow like 4.3 yards per carry, which is good. But the Colts offensive line has definitely not played to the ability that we said they're like top offensive line in the league, and they haven't really played that way. But
as good as the Colts defense is, I think this is a game where they might have to play from behind. And Jonathan, I mean, every running back, I'm pretty sure had 2 catches last week. So, I mean, Nyheim Hines is definitely the passing down back, but you can't really rely on any one of those 3 right now.
Yeah, I think Taylor's still the safest, but yeah, I agree. They might end up getting behind in this game. We shall see. If you have Taylor, you're probably still starting him, though. The running backs are scarce. Next one here is James Conner. So James Conner has avoided this list pretty much all season. He had 9 carries for 22 yards and 2 catches for -2 yards for only 4 fantasy points. Is this calm or chaos on Conner?
You are calm as a cucumber.
you're calm. The Steelers as a whole just came out flat. I guess they weren't expecting the game to be like as competitive.
as it was.
But Gilbert whatever. I just want to keep saying Godfrey, but
Derek Gilbert.
he was playing
Gilbert.
well, I guess. But anything's better than Danucci last week, the week before. But yeah, it was definitely a close game.
Yeah, the Steelers actually found themselves trailing for a lot of this game. So Big Ben had to throw more. That's obviously why he had a pretty good game. I think James Conner will be fine. They're going to be up in more games than they are not moving forward.
This was only a second game in single-digit carries, and I don't see that maybe happening again this season.
Yeah, exactly. Next one here is Ezekiel Elliott. If you own Zeke, you might be happy that he's on a bye this week. 18 carries for 51 yards and 2 catches for 18 yards. He has not hit double-digit fantasy points since week 6. Is this calm or chaos?
Absolute.
Sell at all
chaos.
costs.
Get whatever you can for him.
Honestly, what's he worth?
I don't know. But that Cowboys defense is so bad that they're going to be playing from behind majority of the weeks. Zeke isn't really going to get the volume that he had when Dak was there, when they were putting up mad points, playing from ahead, and they could just feed Zeke. I don't know. The touches haven't been there. The production hasn't been there. I think, Sean, it might be time to give your boy Zeke a little
All right, let me come to you as a fellow Zeke owner. Definitely understand the frustration. I am definitely frustrated. I stuck with him over the past 3 weeks. If you had Zeke, you probably should have sold him after the Arizona game when you saw
you
when
should
you
have
saw the
sold him.
signs.
You should have sold him after Dak got hurt.
Well, I mean, you still had faith that he would be the one that got the most of the volume. Like they would have to give him the ball to have any chance to win. Obviously, that has not come to fruition. I mean, they are giving him the ball, but it's just not that pretty. After the Arizona game, you should have sold because the last 3 games have been against Washington, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, 3 of the best run defenses in the league. So obviously his yards per carry has been abysmal, but the schedule does get a bit easier, but still not that much easier. I mean, they get at Minnesota. That's more friendly. Washington, obviously you struggled against them already. They play at Baltimore, and in the championship, if you have Zeke, they're playing Philly. So it's pretty much chaos, but if you have him at this point, the only thing you're going to get for him is nothing. So I think you're just stuck with him and you have to just keep riding it out because I've tried to trade him to everybody in our league and it just has not happened.
Well, I don't know. Somebody might love that name value of Ezekiel Elliott. They're like, oh, he was drafted in the first round. They might not pay attention to
in
his
other
production.
leagues.
Yes. Yeah, in other leagues for sure. Definitely not our league. We're not that brain dead.
Well, also we're not Cowboys fans, so like the name Ezekiel Elliott is not.
It doesn't hold weight in my.
If you can get somebody like Joe Mixon, Chris Carson, even lower than like Todd
good
Gurley,
luck.
whatever, like you're getting a steal.
It's not even a reach to say that you might not even be able to get David Montgomery if he was healthy for Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe Melvin Gordon.
I think at that point you're getting like to a point where like you might as well just keep Zeke because the upside for Zeke is still better.
Just stay disappointed.
You just need him to fall into the end zone, and he hasn't done that either. So
we'll see. He hasn't done that since week 5.
Yeah, it's chaos right now in Zeke.
That's scary.
But if you have him, you're probably stuck with him like I am. You just got to keep rolling him out there, hoping for the best. Obviously he was banged up too, so you want to hope that he's fully healthy coming out of this bye week so that Pollard does not get half the workload. If Pollard wasn't stealing a lot of this work, maybe he would have been okay the past couple of weeks, but it's been rough.
I might be happier starting Pollard, just like maybe there's like a boom opportunity that Zeke wouldn't get, and like you just stay hopeful. Like Zeke, you just like just
Pollard's getting less touches and being more productive just because they know when Zeke's in, he's getting the ball and they're running it. Like Pollard can do more things. He's a little bit better than pass catching game. Obviously, although Zeke can definitely catch passes. I mean, he's had multiple games with 6+ catches this year. So I don't know. It's ugly. It's rough. If you have Zeke, you're holding on to him and you're trying to do something with him if you can, but it's chaos.
Yeah, absolute chaos.
All right. Next one here is Melvin Gordon. 6 carries for 18 yards and 1 catch for 9 yards in a huge offensive game for the Broncos. Is it calm or chaos?
It's chaos. Like the Broncos are in so many of these like tight games where it comes down to the fourth quarter where they have to move the ball and he's just not involved in these drives. So that they should have never signed him to begin with. They had talented Philip Lindsay and maybe Royce would come out of the grave.
5'9",
but I just think this is not going well for Melvin Gordon. At least, like, if you own him, you know that he's not going to be suspended this year because his court case was pushed back to like early December.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta hope that he gets more involved. Like less than 10 carries in each of the last 2 games. It just hasn't looked like his backfield, and you were kind of banking on a lot of this pass catching work, like catching a lot of passes. He only has more than 5 catches in one game, and that was actually 2 weeks ago. But it just doesn't seem like he's going to be that pass catching back that you would want him to be. Drew Lock's really not checking it down. He's actually running the ball a little
Yeah.
bit. So
And he's just bombed it.
yeah, he's airing it out. This is an air raid offense right now, and Melvin Gordon and even Lindsey look like they're falling out of it. So it's chaos on Mel right now.
I'd still rather have Lindsey. Right now, I like
rather have
Lindsey.
Melv.
I mean,
rather have Melv.
I'd rather have Melv too.
the upside's there, but the upside hasn't been showing.
Well, just aside from this past week, he's still gotten more work than Lindsey in pretty much every single game. And even this past week, Lindsey had 8 carries and 0 catches. Lindsey just has no floor. He doesn't get any pass catches. So
In the past 2 weeks, they've been in like kind of shootout type games. So if a Broncos game comes down to a shootout, they definitely rely more on Melv over Lindsey.
yeah, agreed. All right, next one here, Le'Veon Bell. 4 carries, 8 yards, 1 catch for -5 yards.
Put him on your bench. Move on.
Yeah.
F's in the chat. Are you dropping Le'Veon
Sure.
Bell?
The workload isn't going to be there all season. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a reason. I mean, he's still been getting majority of the touches
and he scored this
by
week.
far, and he's finally found the end zone since Nam.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have a lot more faith in Edwards-Helaire than I did when they first signed Le'Veon, because I thought Le'Veon would be more involved, but I've just yet to see it so far.
Yeah, it's chaos on Le'Veon right now. I don't think you're dropping him yet. I think you're holding him on your bench, and you're hoping if you're planning on starting him, you're hoping that through this bye week he learns the playbook a little bit more. They draw up some plays for him to get more involved, and then they have a decently easy schedule for the rest of the season. I mean, Chiefs can beat up any defense, so
Literally.
they're not stacking the box against Le'Veon Bell, but
They play good from behind. They play good with the lead. Like, they'll run the ball. It doesn't matter how many points they're down because Mahomes is just magical.
yeah, exactly. So you're holding on to Le'Veon Bell, but if it continues to just be like no involvement after the bye week, you can drop him at that point.
Yeah, I think it's time to let him go.
I think you'd only hold on to him as the handcuff for CEH if CEH goes down.
I hate that
then
we're talking
will
about it so much.
Put up
Le'Veon
some-
Bell, F.
All right, F. J.K. Dobbins. You probably weren't banking on him, but 12 carries for 30 yards, 2 catches for 5 yards. And after a big first game, Gus Edwards was the one who got the touchdown even after fumbling at the goal line. So you're probably pretty frustrated at that. Is this absolute? Are you just done with J.K. Dobbins at this point?
You're welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
Sunday morning or Saturday night, I told him to pick up Gus Edwards and start him.
It wasn't a
mean-
very pretty game. He just happened to fall
Well,
face first into the end zone.
It would have been a lot better if I went with my gut and I started Rex Burkhead, because Gus only had 9, Rex Burkhead at 15. So the win.
Well, you
would've
still
looked
won.
pretty- The win would have looked prettier, but I still got the win, so I appreciate
You
your-
beat Sean, so it's pretty.
Whatever.
Very pretty.
Matt Stafford
it could be
stinks.
pretty ugly. Yeah, Stafford only put up 10. I got lucky that Dalvin Cook and Rodgers carried my team.
But yeah, I think J.K. Dobbins. Is Mark Ingram planning on returning this week or?
don't think
He's
so.
trending in the right direction, I think, but I wouldn't be shocked if they held him out again.
Chaos, I guess, because Mark Ingram isn't playing and he did poor, and then when he comes back, it's just gonna.
I mean, it also was a tough matchup. Like the Colts.
Yeah, I mean,
Defense.
he said double-digit carries in the past 2 weeks. I mean, he's definitely the back to own if Mark Ingram is not there. I don't see Gus Edwards being like the go-to guy on the Ravens if Mark Ingram is not playing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I still think he's the one to own, but I think it is just a little nerve-wracking, especially with Ingram coming back. It just might not ever come to fruition that he's going to own this backfield.
The backfield is completely untouchable in my opinion. With all 3 of them there, it's just,
And Lamar.
yeah, it's ugly. Lamar is their running back.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into some wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, 3 catches for 30 yards on 3 targets.
All I wrote was calm.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say calm. I think we just had to bring it up. If someone is panicking, buy low on him
Go
for
get
sure.
'em.
Go get him because he's DeAndre Hopkins. Other than
They
that,
must not
yeah,
know.
stay calm on D Hop. The next one here, though, Tyler Lockett, you would kind of think it would be the same answer, but 4 catches for 40 yards on 7 targets. And the last 5 games, his fantasy scores have been 5, 8, 53, 7, 8.
If I've seen a boomer bust receiver, that is what I call boomer bust.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate boomer bust receiver right now. They're kind of early on in the season. Him and Metcalf were both having solid performances, but it's looking like Lockett's kind of being forgotten in some of these games.
He's
It
kind
was
of
a-
the odd man out.
It was a bad Russ game. I mean, that's weird to say because he still had like almost 30 points, but
Yeah, but I think he also had 3 picks.
3 picks, like 2 fumbles. It was bad
It was
real life performance. So that could play part of it, but they were down, so you would expect Lockett to see the ball a lot more. But
surprisingly.
he just wasn't.
If you're a Lockett owner, it's still calm. You're still starting him just because he has that upside to get obviously 53, 37. He has had some huge games, but you just want to see more consistency heading into the playoffs, especially if he's on your team and you are in the playoffs.
I agree.
Next one here is Adam Thielen, 2 catches for 38 yards on 5 targets, back-to-back 5-point games. Matt, I'll let you speak on Adam.
It's the Dalvin Cook show.
It is. And I mean, like, the past couple weeks, I've been donating Dalvin Cook points to Adam Thielen just to make myself feel a little bit better. But, I mean, eventually he's got to get involved. I mean, I don't see him having 5-point games the rest of the season. That's just unheard of. Coming from the man who had 8 or 9 straight 100-yard games like a couple seasons ago, the Vikings defense is horrendous, and I don't
Actually,
know.
they've improved, but
Well,
I guess still not.
they played Stafford last week.
They're
Stafford,
respectable now. Somewhat respectable.
It's debatable.
Like a street
But-
corner.
Definitely
post.
debatable.
I see them playing from behind a lot the rest of the season, so I am staying calm on Adam Thielen. I feel like he's going to finish top 15 rest of the season regardless. Dalvin Cook can eat all he wants, but they're going to eventually have to throw.
Yeah, I agree. Stay calm on Thielen, but it is a little bit nerve-wracking back-to-back struggling games. You hope that he can bounce back this week, but again, another tough matchup at Chicago.
I feel like this is a game where they might have to throw.
Definitely. It just all screams Adam Thielen.
Screens to Adam Thielen, running with Dalvin Cook. That's all I need, baby.
All right, next one here. DJ Moore, 2 catches, 18 yards on 3 targets.
You could hear the hurt in Sean's voice.
I am just done with DJ Moore. I am so done.
But you're still starting him.
It's been an emotional roller coaster starting him every single week. You think he's back, and then he stabs you in the back and says, "No, I'm not." Yeah, I think you still have to start him, especially since he's playing Tampa Bay this week. He had 20 against them last time, but man, is he inconsistent right now. McCaffrey being out helps a little bit in terms of DJ Moore owners.
But he had to see consistency even with McCaffrey out.
Yeah, it seems like he got on the right track and then fell off that track, and now he's lost again.
I
so.
wouldn't even say it was DJ Moore that stabs you in the back. It's Curtis Samuel that stabs you in the back.
Curtis
Where
Samuel.
did he came out of the woodwork?
Right.
The past
Yeah.
3 weeks, he has been unstoppable, and I don't know. They just find ways to get him involved, and that's taking touches away from everyone.
He's a running back. He's a wide receiver. He's
He's
all
like
over.
he's a better Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's finding the end zone. Curtis Samuel is playing out of his mind. And he even had 9 targets last week to DJ Moore's 3. I think I think it's chaos on DJ Moore right now, but
It has
you,
to be. He
you-
only has 2 games of 5+ catches.
yeah, you're probably stuck starting him because
Unless
of
he
that
catches a
upside.
bomb and you luck out. It's
Which is what he does when he gets his point. He just catches a bomb.
I think he's a flex play at this point. He's fallen
Yeah.
from that wide receiver 1 tier prior to the draft, or like at least pushing towards it, and then all the way down to a flex.
barely startable.
A flex.
Yeah,
I
you're
think you
being nice.
probably might not have a better option. If you do, feel free to go with them. I was
If you've-
considering starting Landry over him this week, but I don't think I can do it.
Does it sound crazy
Don't-
starting Curtis Samuel over him?
No.
Yes, but I don't know.
It-
I mean,
it
Curtis Samuel's
sounds
on
crazy,
fire.
But on paper,
Yeah.
I would not be against.
Like
it.
switch names and like or just give them all different names. You'd want
Yeah,
to
if you just
start
don't look
Curtis
at the
Samuel.
names and the points, it's like,
Look-
yeah,
look at-
obviously you're
yeah,
starting
look at the
Curtis
points.
Samuel.
Starting Curtis
Yeah,
Samuel.
you look at the points. You don't have to look at the names. Like
If
my name, I'm
CMC's
Curtis
out,
Sam.
you're probably starting Curtis Samuel. Anyways, let's move on. I'm tired of DJ Moore. I don't want to talk about him. Corey Davis, 0 catches for 0 yards on 3 targets. After we sung praises for him, he came up as empty. This is calm or chaos?
This is calm because you knew it was coming. I said it last week. As consistent as he's been, it was bound to happen. This is Corey Davis. But I wasn't expecting a donut from him.
Yeah.
I think that Baltimore defense, I mean, no, they played Chicago last week. They played Chicago. Now they play Indianapolis, Baltimore, Indianapolis. So Corey Davis is a scary schedule, to say the least. But I think better days will be ahead. But I think if you were planning on relying on him as an option, it's chaos.
I
think
mean,
you're a
aside
little
from
nervous.
this week, he's had double-digit fantasy points in every week.
He's
thus
been more
far.
consistent than DJ Moore.
That is true, Q. I can't argue with the facts.
Those are the facts.
I don't know. Curtis Samuel has been so on and off his entire career. He's been hurt, healthy. He's produced. He's been irrelevant. I mean, it's just one of them dart throws that if you're feeling lucky, go ahead, put him in your lineup. I don't know if I could trust him though.
Yeah.
Q brought back up DJ Morse that got the Panthers in Matt's head.
my
He's just
God.
said Curtis Samuel.
I heard him say that.
But it's all good. Corey Davis, I agree.
Corey Davis.
He is what he is. He's a flex play.
Yeah.
That's what he is. And he has been consistent. So if you think it's going to bounce back, roll him out there. But I think it could be more like Cole Beasley, 3 catches for 39 yards on 3 targets, back-to-back poor performances. This is calm or chaos.
Blame John Brown.
Blame John Brown.
JB's back.
Q.
Cole Beasley's becoming, I wouldn't say a phony because that's like a mean, because he has been pretty consistent. But like when John
Yeah.
Brown's here,
Yeah, he's not the number 2 receiver on that team. As I thought earlier in the year, I thought John Brown would have came back. I still would have thought Cole Beasley would be producing more than him, but I guess I was wrong.
sorry, John Brown, for disrespecting.
Yeah, I had faith in John Brown. I said last week that it was chaos on Cole Beasley just because as soon as that streak ended of his consistency, I was nervous. And it happened again. It's inconsistent. And there's no upside, so you don't feel confident starting Cole Beasley unless he's that consistent.
Nope.
Let's move on to some tight ends. Mark Andrews, 3 catches for 22 yards on 5 targets, 3 straight rough games, and actually has been outperformed by his teammate Nick Boyle in 2 of the last 3 games. This is calm or chaos?
Are you starting Nick Boyle?
No, you're not starting Nick Boyle, please God.
Not starting Nick Boyle, but I mean, yeah, I think it might be a little bit chaotic.
He's the only one that you're starting in that offense receiver wise. Actually, outside of Lamar wise,
Maybe Hollywood.
maybe.
If
Would
you
you
don't have another
Hollywood
option.
or Corey Davis?
Let's talk about Mark Andrews because I don't want to get into that debate.
I'm still staying calm. I just think tight ends are so scarce. Mark Andrews has the best chance of putting you points. And even though he hasn't, I think he'll bounce back
He's
sooner
only
rather than
had
later.
double-digit fantasy points in 3 games this season, which is kind of concerning
Definitely.
because he was top 3 last year without a doubt, and that's when tight ends were actually like producing. You had Kittle, you had Kelsey, you had Ertz, everyone.
Yeah. So,
And
but my only rebuttal is who are you going to go pick up? Nick Boyle, Gerald Everett,
You're not starting anyone.
Ross
Jordan
Dwelly.
Akins.
Ross
You got
Dwelly.
to roll him out there, but temper expectations on Mark Andrews. And I would say temper expectations on that entire Ravens offense
I agree.
because it has not looked like it did last year.
Yep. Another big tight end, Hunter Henry, 4 catches for 33 yards on 7 targets. So he got a little bit more involved in the passing game with the targets, but 3 straight games with 7 points or less. And in 4 of the last 5, 7 points or less. Calm or
think
chaos?
The emergence of Mike Williams
Williams
has hurt because like they're throwing the ball a lot and they don't have like a reliable running back, especially last week with Justin Jackson being hurt, Kelly not being reliable. They're just as a whole not reliable. So you would expect Hunter Henry, who's a talented tight end, to be thrown at, but Keenan Allen is beginning a lot, 90% of the work probably, and then Mike Williams just sprinkle it on top, the other 10%.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I think you got to stay calm as well, just because of the position and the depth. He's getting you at least some points, but you hope that he gets that big game or finds the end zone soon.
Yeah.
That is where, like, that surprises me that he only has 1 touchdown all season.
Yeah, you think that's
And
where
that
his
is
money would be
killing
made.
you. Last year, he was a red zone monster.
He was like
And-
the old Antonio Gates or the new Antonio Gates.
Yeah, exactly. And
Philip
this year,
Rivers
he
loves
just-
throwing to tight ends in the red zone. We've seen Mo Alley Cox feasting in the end, and
just
Jack
likes-
Doyle's got touchdowns. Trey Burton's got
Burton,
touchdowns.
Yo,
He just likes to throw.
bring Philip Rivers back, and Hunter Henry will excel.
They're throwing a ton though. I think Herbert's just been not finding him in the red zone. I think they will hook up eventually. So stay
A
calm
ton.
for now.
I see where that's how you're going to move into the next guy saying a ton.
Yeah,
Tonyan.
Robert Tunyon, 1 catch for 5 yards on 1 target.
Tonyan.
Matt, too risky to start. Are you sticking with him?
I have to. I have no other option.
Because you keep disrespecting his name, keep calling him Tanyan. He's
No, that's when he plays good. Is when you call him Tanyan. And once he like let everyone know how it was pronounced, he is sucked. So everyone has to go back to calling him Tanyan, and he'll score 33 again. But I don't know. He's scaring the shit out of me. I have no other choice but to trust him. But am I confident in it? Not one bit. But I don't have another option. And he could always find the end zone.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of athletes who like we pronounce their names one way and then they came out and they pronounced it another way. See if that like is a reason why he's playing poorly. But Dario Saric, he was good even before and after they found out how to pronounce his name.
And
Maybe-
Dario. Sorry.
They call him, I forget what they called him before, but I think it was like
Bet you only like 3 of our viewers right now know who Dario Saric is.
maybe there's somebody in Phoenix or wherever. That's where he's playing right now.
Well, if it's any of our friends in the chat right now, they definitely know who
They
Saric is.
definitely know who Saric
But
is.
yeah,
anyone
chaos
from
on
anywhere else.
Tunyon.
Yeah.
Chaos on Tunyon.
Chaos on Tunyon. All right, last tight end here. Jared Cook, 2 catches for 30 yards, and he lost a fumble, 3 targets. Calmer chaos.
Chaos.
He was already
He's
up
back.
and down.
He
Yeah,
was- He was very touchdown dependent when MT was not there because I don't know if he had a game over 60 receiving yards without MT. So, I mean, unless he found the end zone, he was a bad tight end option that week. And now that MT's back, he's going to just take away more targets, obviously more red zone action.
Breeze is spreading the ball around a lot.
Yeah, he is. And surprisingly, Traquan Smith was a lot more involved last week than I thought he would have been with MT back.
How many points did Jared Cook have last week?
He would have had 5 if he didn't fumble, but he fumbled, so he had 3. I'm staying
Either
calm
way, not good.
for now, just because that Saints offense is still so potent. I think Jared Cook might just be able to find the end zone. He might be like Gronk on the Bucks, where like they have Michael Thomas, they have Kamara. The Bucks have 100 weapons,
Everyone.
but Jared Cook still is probably a better bet to catch a pass in the end zone than Jordan Akins or some of these guys on waivers, Darren Fells,
Taysom Hill.
Tyler Eifert. Honestly, that's what I was
Taysom
going to bring
Hill
up.
scored one more point than him. Well, he fumbled, but he's also had 14 the week prior.
Taysom Hill might be a decent tight end option if they
Who?
keep using him.
Who I want to know if someone in this world has ever started him.
I
in their
might
fa-
this week.
If you started him last week
I
or the
might
last
start
2
him over
weeks,
Tanya.
Honestly,
Now
that
we're talking about it.
like tight ends are so scarce. Taysom Hill, throw him in.
Taysom Hill
he
has
could do everything. If he throws a touchdown, boom. If he runs for a touchdown, boom.
exactly.
We'll be the first podcast to convince you to start Taysom Hill.
Start Taysom Hill.
And they might go up on the 49ers like the Packers did. Taysom Hill comes in late, just
and he
dishing
just
dimes,
does
running the
whatever.
ball,
Running
whatever.
the ball. Oh my god, you guys are really like making me consider this.
Yeah, Jared Cook, a little bit of chaos, but you might not have much better. He's probably a better bet for a touchdown than most other waiver tight ends. All right, let's get into today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is the Thrive Fantasy app for iOS and Android. Thrive Fantasy app, if you don't know at this point, you haven't been watching the podcast, it is a daily fantasy sports app for player props as well as game props. And you can also do like daily fantasy. So if you download the Thrive Fantasy app and use our promo code SUPERFB, SUPERFB, and you deposit $20 or more, you will receive an instant cash bonus that matches your deposit up to $50. So if you deposit 20, you'll get 20 back. If you deposit 50, you will get 50 back. So go check out the up and coming Thrive Fantasy app today and win yourself some money. Thousands of dollars in prizes available pretty much every NFL game. So check it out.
Check it out.
All right, let's get into trust or bust before we get into some trade targets.
Let's
So
do it.
the more positive side, depending on if we say they're bust or not. Start with quarterbacks again. Josh Allen, 415 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 7 carries for 14 yards, and another rushing touchdown. Are we fully back in on Josh Allen? Trust or bust?
I'm trusting him.
Yeah, you're trusting him. Fully back in though.
Although his schedule coming up is a little bit difficult, so I mean, it's a little scary, but it's Josh Allen. We saw what he did the first few weeks. He was an MVP candidate. I mean, he still has Diggs. He has John Brown back. His tight ends are getting healthy, so.
And he was getting Singletary pretty involved in the last game too. I think he's
Yeah,
throwing to him a lot.
It's
Was in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And
In
then
the first-
Singletary
and then he just
disappeared.
disappeared.
As soon as I said something, I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it
yeah.
looks like
Irrelevant,
Singletary
yeah.
might be back. He had 3 catches early on, and then he finished with 3 catches and disappeared. So we shall see. But in terms of Josh Allen, you're back in on him. You're rolling him out there. You got to keep starting him. As we said, we were chaos on him, but we said you got to keep starting him, especially against Seattle. And now he's got Arizona, so he's going to put up some more numbers again this week. Next one here is Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben, 306 yards and 3 touchdowns for 30 fantasy points. Calm or chaos? I mean, not calm or chaos. Trust or bust.
Sean's still stuck on
He
this.
was playing with like 2 injured knees, and like so most of his points started coming.
What else is new?
He, like
And
Playing
now he's on the
against-
COVID list.
yeah, so, but he's like just like Matt Stafford, if not more, like of a veteran. Like he can not practice and play and be fine.
Yeah.
But
You ever see that video of him during
yeah,
training
just
camp where he's
tackling,
throwing the bags? He's not even trying.
he's not worried.
That's
I-
like my
not
favorite
worried.
video.
That's so funny.
But you're throwing him out there if you have him. I mean, they're 8-0 because he's playing good football.
Yeah.
And the running game is working. So I mean, that might be a little knock on Ben, but he still has all the weapons in the world. He has Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Juju, Ebron. I mean, he's gonna find ways to get it done. Although that defense does look good, so they might be playing up in a lot of these games coming up.
Yeah, I think they're going to be up in a lot of games. I think the only reason he had to throw a lot in this one is because the Cowboys were winning for most of that game, shockingly.
Surprise! That was weird.
So, I mean, this was the first time he's thrown 3 passing touchdowns since week 5. He had a few inconsistent games there where they've had the run game more involved, as well as their defenses scoring points themselves. So that makes me a little nervous. But I think if you have Big Ben, you know what he is. He's a borderline top 10 quarterback
Mhm.
who can get you that 25 to 30 points in big games, but you're just starting him as someone that you can rely on that gets you at least some points. All right, next quarterback here. Let's get into a couple more risky ones. Teddy Bridgewater, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 carries for 19 yards, added another touchdown. Is this trusting Teddy as a full-time starter, or is he still matchup based for starting him?
Matchup based may be too nice. I think he's just way too inconsistent. He's throwing either 2 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns or 0 touchdowns. He has the weapons, but he's not consistent enough to put him inside like a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he has the weapons, but throughout his career, he's never been like a passing quarterback. He's always been run first.
Cuss later.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know if I'm trusting Teddy to be like my solid QB1 for the rest of the season.
I'm only trusting Teddy, like I said, matchup based.
Yeah.
I still can't trust him matchup proof. He's playing Tampa this week, and he only
This
had
week?
eight points against Tampa in week 2.
Mm.
So that makes me nervous. But Detroit, Minnesota, and Denver, the next 3 games, he could put up some decent numbers if you're
Yeah.
looking for someone to get you into the playoffs.
And
He's
then
average-
the week after when he plays Green Bay, that could be a shootout. So I mean, he might be forced to throw.
He's averaging 20 points a game, which isn't. I mean, on the season he's averaging 20 points a game. Yeah, so that's not too bad, I guess. It's like a QB2, but there's definitely.
You're not starting a QB2 Q.
Well, you might have to, like Sean.
Yeah, it's true.
Joe
Sean's team is
Burrow.
a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, let's not talk about my team. All right, let's just keep that on the low. I am still fighting for a playoff spot, whether you like it or not.
I think everybody in the league is.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyways, Drew Lock, next one here. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, like we said, matchup based. But for Drew Lock, 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 7 carries for 47 yards and another rushing touchdown. Who knew Drew Lock had it in him?
Drew Lock did.
Trust or bust?
I think I gotta trust him.
I feel like Drew Lock is not relevant to like the fourth quarter of every game because that's when he has to produce. But he's not bad. I don't know if I trust him.
He isn't
yet.
bad. He doesn't really have like a tough upcoming schedule. I mean, he's been putting up numbers against half decent defenses, and I think a lot of these games coming up could end up being shootouts. So he's going to be forced to air the ball out. I mean, Judy's looked good. He has
he's gotten better. Judy has gotten a lot better.
All the Penn State products that
AJ Hamler's looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Not Deshaun Hamilton that
products
much.
have looked okay. So I mean, I don't see why you can't be a solid starter going forward.
Yeah, I think you can trust him if you're desperate, but other than that, you probably already have a better option at quarterback. But I think he's worth an add at least on your bench. Let's move on here to some running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We touched on him a little bit earlier when we talked about Le'Veon Bell, but he had 5 carries for 14 yards, which was ugly. But he had 3 catches for 20 yards and finally found the end zone. So
finally,
is this trust or bust on CEH?
I trust him.
He's like, because Le'Veon Bell has almost been non-existent after last week, and he was barely doing anything last week, the week prior. But in this offense, you have to trust one of these guys, and we've seen Helaire. He's still like a top 5 rusher in the league. I think that's only because of that one game he had like 160 yards. But I'm trusting Helaire, especially because he got his touchdown on a pass, so he's being used more in the passing game.
I'm still saying bust on Helaire right now. Someone that really likes CEH. I just don't think the volume is there to fully rely on him as a starter. He has not had 10 touches in a game since Le'Veon Bell has been there. He's had pretty much 9 or 8 in every single game, which is just not enough to sustain consistent fantasy value unless he gets a touchdown like he did this past week. So that makes me nervous. I still think he's going to be their go-to back, but I just don't think running backs are getting enough volume in this offense to be that relevant.
I don't know what it's going to take for him to get more volume because like when they're up by 40, they'll still throw the ball.
Just still bombs it. I don't get it. They just
Exactly.
love running up the scoreboard.
So that's why I think it's a bust.
His best game came off like a bad weather game, and they don't go anywhere for the rest of the season. That's really bad weather because Denver comes to them next. But you just gotta hope. I don't know what it's like in Kansas or not Kansas, in Missouri. So I don't know if it's.
I mean, they do get snow sometimes. There has been some snow games at Arrowhead, but they're on the road for their next 6 games too, and you can't bank on the snow for CH to be solid. So I'm nervous. I think you're probably stuck with him if you have him, but it definitely makes me nervous.
Would you trade Zeke for him?
No, I think I'd rather have Zeke.
Okay, just seeing
more volume, and has a better chance of falling into the end zone probably.
Glad you added probably because it's not probable.
Not probable.
I don't think either of them are very reliable for touchdowns. But anyways, next one here. DeAndre Swift, 13 carries for 64 yards, 3 catches for 33 yards. This is a more DeAndre Swift-esque game that we've seen. Is your trust back after that horrible 6 carries for 1 yard performance?
I trust him.
Yeah, but you got to see if Stafford's playing.
Even if Stafford's not playing, I mean, I still think whoever the next quarterback is will probably get him a couple passes. So
easily,
but they might just be really bad too.
I'm pretty sure he's only had 2 games in single-digit fantasy points so far. So I mean, he's been rock solid. The floor is there. The upside hasn't really shown. I mean, it's shown in
one big game.
Where he had 116 rushing yards. But I see them getting him more involved, especially if they're playing from behind. I don't see Adrian Peterson running the ball if they're down 14 points.
They tried getting Peterson involved. I think he got stuffed on the goal line.
It didn't work.
Yeah, they were on the 1. They tried to run it outside with AP, and he got stuffed back.
Just because he's playing the Vikings.
It's a big mistake.
Yeah, they wanted that revenge touchdown. Did not happen. Yeah, I'm saying that I'm trusting DeAndre Swift. He's a decent RB2, especially with the scarcity at the position. Next one here is Jerick McKinnon. 12 carries, 52 yards, and 1 touchdown. Three catches for 16 yards. Is this trust or bust on Jerick? With Hasty struggling.
I trust him
Tevin
as long
Coleman's
as
returning.
Mostert's out.
Tevin Coleman's returning.
He's out this week.
Oh, I thought
They
he was
just
still
announced
questionable.
today, I believe.
Okay. Well, he scored the touchdown with like 30 seconds remaining in the game. Other than that, his fantasy day would have been like 8 points. So I don't know how much you're trusting him.
Mediocre, but touchdowns are touchdowns. They count regardless when they came in the game. I'm trusting him as long as he is the lead back in San Francisco. Whoever the lead back there, like whoever is the lead back in San Francisco always seems to find a way to produce. Like we've seen it with Jeff Wilson, Q, especially you have seen it.
What do you mean? I never started him. I just had him.
Well, you've seen it on your bench, unfortunately.
Firsthand.
Anyways, I'm with Matt. Jerick
But-
McKinnon, definitely solid as long as he's getting work. He actually has 5 fantasy games this season of 13, actually 6 of 13 or more points when he's actually getting the work.
It could be the last week to trust him though, because they have this week and then they have a bye, and then Coleman will be returned. Maybe Mostert will return.
Yeah, I agree. So if you have McKinnon, this will probably be your last
Hoorah!
hurrah. Yeah,
Whoa.
Schultz would say this is his last supper.
yeah, the last supper for Jerick McKinnon. All right, one more running back, J.D. McKissick, 3 carries for 17 yards but he had 9 catches for 65 yards.
That's a lot of catches.
That's
For a
Trust-
running back.
Trust or bust with McKissick as an RB2 option.
I trust him because of Alex Smith being his quarterback now. That's where most of his work came, because Kyle Allen got hurt early, and then Alex Smith was in there the remainder of the game. Obviously, Antonio Gibson's going to be the main back, but McKissick is an interesting play moving forward.
Yeah, I just think the volume in the passing game has been huge. I mean, he's got a lot of catches
He has.
overall. So, I mean, he's got 34 catches this season as a running back, and we're halfway through. He's looking for maybe 70 catches. And if your running back's getting 70 catches, he's going to have at least a solid floor. So I say keep rolling McKissick out there as long as he's involved in the passing game. You can get by with him.
He was the 4th highest scoring or 3rd highest scoring running back this week, which just says a lot about the running backs that are available.
Yeah,
that is
it's
true.
ugly.
Running back is.
Yeah, not good. Let's move on to some wide receivers. Let's start with the entire Steelers wide receiver core. Can you trust them all? Juju had 21 points. Claypool had 14. Deontay Johnson had 13. And Ebron even had a late touchdown to get himself to 11. So can you trust all of the Steelers pass catchers in general?
I still feel like I'm a big Juju hater. I think I'd trust him the least of the 3,
What?
not counting
I think-
Ebron.
I think Juju has solidified himself as a number 1 option on that team.
I'm with Matt.
I thought it was only a matter of time.
We did
I
say this
mean-
week 1.
I know, but I'm with Matt
Right.
now. Over the last 3 games, he has
Yeah.
29 targets.
Ever since we posted the TikTok or showed the TikTok.
Yeah, he's been
We had
eating.
to light a fire under him.
He's had at least 6 catches in each of the last 3 games. He's been just super involved after disappearing for a couple weeks there. So if you think Juju's the worst, I mean, I definitely could see, just because you were nervous with those few games where he really struggled. But I would probably rank them right now. Juju number 1, and I'd probably put Claypool number 2 just because he has more big play upside than Deontay Johnson does. Deontay Johnson, where he had those big games, you were relying on that volume. And that has kind of faded a little bit. Obviously, he struggled a lot last week. And even in this game, he wasn't really involved until the late, like the 3rd or 4th quarter. But he did get 10 targets, and that's what you got. You got the volume that you wanted.
I will
think
say
all 3 are
They're viable
startable.
starters.
Juju
not
is
startables.
any bull for trying to celebrate on the Dallas Star though. He was gonna get his ass handed to him. They were waiting for him.
That was so funny. He tried to run. He ran to he was dancing on it pregame. He
Yeah,
posted
I
a
saw
TikTok
that.
of him dancing on it pregame, and then he got halfway there, and the defensive lineman was chasing him down like, "You better do
smacked them
this."
all.
He wanted to be T.O. so bad.
Yeah,
Or whoever it was that celebrated on the star.
it was
Yeah.
T.O. Yeah, and then he became a Cowboy later, anyways.
Ugh.
But yeah, I think all three are viable starters. I think just beware that one of them may end up falling off every week, but I think at least two of them are going to have decent fantasy numbers every week. And then Ebron is just more touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
But all tight ends are.
Unless you're Travis Kelce.
Unless you're Travis Kelce
All right.
or Darren Waller,
Yeah,
Hawkinson.
Darren Waller.
That's about it.
Even Hawkinson's kind of touchdown dependent.
A little bit. We'll talk about Hawkinson tomorrow's podcast. But anyways, next wide receiver here is DJ Chark. And I was pretty happy about this one because I had him in my lineup. 7 catches for 146 yards and a touchdown, 12 targets. The volume was there, especially with Jake Luton of all Luton. I still don't know how to say his last name. Jake L of all people. DJ Chark, is he back? Trust or bust?
I want to see another game, but I think Minshew lost his job.
Wow.
It's
That's
one
bold.
game.
I mean,
but after one game,
They are
I'm
holding
back
him
to
out
trust-
this week.
After that one game, I'm back to trusting DJ Chark though.
It's either
literally first drive of the game, Luton, they did not have any restrictions on him. He bombed it to DJ Chark. I'm pretty sure it was like what 76-yard touchdown.
Yeah, it's like 74 or something
long.
like that. It was
Yeah,
far.
it was ridiculous. I mean,
Then he stayed involved after 6 catches for
Yeah.
another 70 yards or whatever. So
exactly.
yeah, I
it's
think
not Jake Luton's taking his job. It's Trevor Lawrence. If he's
they're not
drafted.
getting the number 1 pick. The Jets are. Jets
You
are
don't-
taking Lawrence.
you don't know if they're taking
unless
Trevor
they're
Lawrence.
super confident in Sam Darnold, which
Trevor Lawrence is going
Adam
to go
Gase
back to
could be.
Clemson for another year, and he's going to go to anybody but the Jets.
he might. You never know. But yeah, DJ Chark, I'm saying trust moving forward.
Yes.
Christian Kirk, 5 catches for 123 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets. He now has 3 straight games of 20 plus fantasy points and 10 plus in 5 straight. Is this trust or bust for Christian Kirk?
Yeah.
I thought he was a fluke, but he's catching bombs weekly and putting up numbers. Yeah, he's the number 2 option because there is no other option
Yeah.
really.
If you're outperforming D-Hop and you guys are on the same team, something's going for you. I don't know why you're giving the big thumbs up. It's not going to last very long, but for now it looks good. But
Yeah.
I mean, you can't deny the production.
Yeah, I was going to say personally, owning him, I'm trusting him until he falls apart. So until he has that back down to earth
game.
bust game where he has 2 catches for 30 yards or something like that, you just have to keep starting Christian Kirk until proven otherwise. It might come this week where he falls back down to earth, but 3 straight games of 20 plus points. He's catching touchdowns. He's catching long passes. Keep rolling him out there until you see otherwise. He has that potential to blow up pretty much every week just because he's got that over the top speed. Q's guy here, Brandon Cooks, 3 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. He's averaging 20 plus points over the last 4 weeks. Is he fully locked in for you guys? Trust or bust?
Believe it or not, he's actually done better. He's averaged more points before Bill O'Brien's firing more than Will Fuller, and after wide margin, like five more points a game. He has definitely been eating low key. Like, I mean, not really anymore, but you weren't expecting this. I mean, maybe you were coming this season, you were expecting this from Brandon Cooks because Brandon Cooks is talented, but he caught a bomb the same time Chark caught a bomb.
It was literally the very next offensive play for the Texans. I'm pretty sure, like the next 2 plays later, it was a slant that he was able to run all the way down the sideline. That was crazy.
Being able to pick up Cooks off the waivers it was a
It's a
very
blessing.
nice pickup for me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that was a nice pickup, Q. I do think Brandon Cooks is trustable moving forward. No doubt. You have to keep rolling him out there. He has been rock solid. And I think even if he does have a down game, I think he's one that you can trust to bounce back, especially in this high-powered offense.
I agree.
Another one here that has disappeared since week 2, John Brown, 8 catches for 99 yards on 11 targets. Is he back as the number 2 on the Bills?
We
I
just
believe
said that,
so.
Sean.
And Cole Beasley,
Yeah, I
Goodbye,
agree.
Cole Beasley.
I'm with you guys. As long as he's healthy, which is not often, roll John Brown out there as a flex.
Be cautious though, because he's only had 2 games over 5 catches, and one of them came week 1, and the other one was last week. So his involvement may be on a very up and down, but if he gets the involvement, the production is going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Jerry Judy, 7 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown on 14 targets. Is this trust or bust? Is this the Jerry Judy we expected to see coming out as a rookie?
Yeah, I thought he was going to be the best rookie receiver, and though it's only been one game, he's really done this. I am trusting him. He's breaking out. Drew Lock is what we thought he would be, with helping Judy as in being a relevant wide receiver.
Yeah. 24 targets in the last 2 weeks. If that
That's a lot.
volume stays continuing, you're rolling Jerry Judy out there as a flex every week. He's got that upside too to
For
take
sure.
one.
And his floor is pretty high. He's only had 3 games thus far under 10 fantasy points. So, I mean, if you need a solid flex option or maybe possibly a wide receiver too, I would definitely roll him out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. The next one here has been boomer bust for most of his career, but it might be a little bit of consistency we're seeing. Mike Williams, 5 catches for 81 yards on 7 targets, and he has 5 catches and 80 plus yards in 3 of the last 4 games. Is this trust or bust on Mike?
Maybe it was a Phillip Rivers thing. Maybe not, but
I
I'm
think it's more
trusting
of a
Mike
health
Williams.
thing.
Yeah, it's been a Mike Williams health thing for sure.
I'm trusting him too. I feel like he's obviously that he has that chance of busting, but with Justin Herbert slinging it, he's been involved and he's been getting a lot of deep targets. So if he can catch any of them, he might have had even a bigger game if he didn't drop that touchdown where he
Yeah.
got banged up on the last play. So
Yeah.
as long as he's healthy, he's a solid flex option.
And we all know the Chargers to be in close games. So in the fourth quarter, they're going to have to throw it. And Mike Williams is a big target. And I like Mike Williams a lot. As long as he's healthy, I like him for the rest of the season.
I agree. Let's get into a couple of tight ends before we get into some trade targets. Jimmy Graham, 6 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. And he's currently tight end 5 on the season. Is he fully locked in as a trustable tight end?
It's so hard to say yes, but he definitely is.
Yeah.
Outside of Allen Robinson, maybe the emergence of Darnell Mooney, who has, I guess, been playing well.
He's looked
Like,
good.
you're not really trusting anybody else. Anthony Miller, more of like I consider him like a gadget guy. And now they don't have a running back, so they could be throwing to Jimmy Graham a lot more.
Jimmy Graham has 5 targets in every single game this season except 1. So
Jimmy Grandpa.
if you're looking for a tight end that's getting consistent volume, it's Jimmy Graham. He's had 6 targets at least in the last 4. You just got to keep rolling him out there. He did have a poor game in week 8, the reason he's on this list, but Jimmy Graham's going to get you at least 8 pretty much every week in terms of
I'll
fantasy
take that
points.
from, once again, with these low amount of tight
Scarcity
ends.
of tight ends. I'll
You're
take
taking
8 points a week.
Yeah, roll him out there. He's averaging 10 a game. He's been pretty solid. Keep starting him. Last one here, Jonnu Smith, 2 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. He's back in the end zone. Is he back as a startable tight end?
Nope. Because AJ Brown is back. And the past couple of weeks, we've been mentioning how as soon as AJ Brown came back, Jonnu's production took a heavy hit.
And it
And
indeed
it's been
has.
all downhill. I mean, he got lucky with the touchdown last week. I mean, not lucky, but if he didn't have the touchdown, it would have been another dismal fantasy day for Jonnu. So, I mean, you can't rely on him getting into the end zone every week because I feel like even when they're in the red zone, AJ Brown is their number 1 go-to.
And Derrick Henry.
And Derrick Henry.
So
And
Jonnu
Derrick
Smith
Henry.
is definitely risky, but out of the tight ends that are out there, he's probably, again,
Top
similar
8.
to like Jared Cook. He's got a good chance at finding the end zone or a better chance than most tight ends. It's ugly. He's going to have a lot of bad games as we've seen the past couple of weeks, but keep throwing him out there for now, I guess. It's bust, but tight end is so scarce that it's trust.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our trade targets here. I will start us off with a buy low, someone we talked about already today, Mark Andrews. He has struggled the past few weeks, and if you're looking for a tight end that has that upside to be a consistent top 5 tight end, it's Mark Andrews. We've seen it in the past. After a couple of tough matchups, I think their schedule starts to lighten up a bit for the Ravens. So I would definitely look for Mark Andrews as someone to target, especially if you've had a tight end that's been pretty solid, like can't even think of somebody off the top of my head. Jared Cook, aside from this past week, has looked like a consistent tight end based on just his points. I like Noah Fant maybe a little bit more than Mark Andrews. It's close, as long as Noah Fant can stay healthy. But Mark Andrews is definitely someone I'm targeting if I'm looking for a tight end that has been struggling that can help me in the playoffs. That's who I'd want to target.
And it's weird though, just thinking about it, like the Ravens' offense has been the same from last year. They've just regressed as a whole.
Yeah, it's just been honestly, Lamar said today that teams know what play they're calling at the line. He said defenses are calling it out and they know exactly
Well,
what's
that's
coming.
saying something.
So they got to switch it up, mix it
Yeah.
up. John Harbaugh, they all have the tape now on Lamar.
I think
First-
that
If
happened
you
to
give
the
professional football teams time to like adjust to one player or one like scheme that offense does, they're gonna eat it up every time.
Mhm.
I feel like last year was like the Eagles had that issue or something where they knew what play the Eagles were called. I don't, maybe it was some other team, but it could have been the Eagles.
It does happen multiple times across the NFL. Like players will think that they've seen it on film. You have to be able to change it up to diversify your offense. So hopefully the Ravens figure something out. John Harbaugh is a good coach. I'm sure he'll figure it out. So Q, hit us with your buy low. Who do you
This
got?
is nice to say because I remember at the beginning of the season, you guys said, I mean, I guess he's still matchup proof, but Adam Thielen has been quite disappointing these last couple of weeks. For a team that throws the ball averaging 30, they average less than 30 throws a game. And Dalvin Cook, not the emergence of him because we all know how great he is, but Justin Jefferson on the other side taking targets away, and Dalvin Cook just being the guy that they're giving the ball to up or down in points or in lead or losing. They're giving it to Dalvin Cook. I still think he has some potential. Adam Thielen does. I mean, he's shown it before, but I just think this time right now, after two low scoring performances, you could definitely maybe offer a panicked owner something reasonable and get Adam Thielen in return.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Adam Thielen is a good buy low if someone is panicking on him. You should not be panicking if you have Adam Thielen, as we said earlier. Just a little nervous, though.
A little bit.
Matt, who's your buy low? Hit us with it.
My buy low is Kenny Galladay, and his status for this week is still in question, I believe. So I mean, owner might be frustrated with his availability because he has missed a few weeks so far. But every game that he's played, he's had 14 or more fantasy points, aside from last week where he got hurt. But before he got hurt, he also had 4 targets. So, I mean, if he's playing, he is Matthew Stafford's go-to. He is the clear number 1 option. I mean, last year we saw what he was able to do while healthy and consistently in the lineup. So if somebody's frustrated with Galladay's availability and they're in win now mode and you're already like a lock for the playoffs, I would definitely go out and try and get him.
And like Marvin Jones wasn't too impressive last week for being the number 1 guy on that team. So I'll take like a 70% Galladay and over Marvin Jones.
I think if Galladay doesn't play, I might rather start Amendola over
He is
Marvin Jones.
Amendola is a pretty consistent. He could be the new Cole Beasley for like a floor guy, as long as Galladay's out.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think Amendola has that more of a target share when Galladay is out. They just look for him over the middle. He might just rack up catches similar to Edelman for the Patriots in the past. All right, on to some sell high guys. I'm selling high on Mike Williams, although we just talked him up and he does have a pretty decent schedule. Mike Williams has had 3 really solid games out of the last 4. And if you can get somebody that's been a little bit more consistent this season as a flex option, whether it's a running back or a wide receiver, or you're buying low on somebody, Mike Williams, I would try and flip him into something right now if possible. So check that out, to say the least. I would definitely try and sell high on Mike Williams if you have him and see what is out there that you can get. Even if it's somebody that's struggling, like maybe even like Darrell Henderson or somebody, a Kareem Hunt owner that's panicked that Nick Chubb's coming back. I mean, these are a little bit of a stretch here, but if you could make something like that work.
That's a stretch because I think Kareem Hunt performs better with Nick Chubb in the lineup.
I don't know about better, but I do think he will be consistent. Either way, Mike Williams, sell high on him if you can and get some value back.
And
All right.
health is always a concern with Mike Williams.
Yeah, agreed.
Another
Q?
guy that health seemed, not recently, but concern for this player health is something. Will Fuller. I don't want to use Brandon Cooks as a reason as the only reason why, but like Brandon Cooks has he's leading the team in targets, 8 more targets than Will Fuller. Mentioned earlier, he's averaging 5 more points than Will Fuller. Will Fuller has scored touchdowns in like the last 6 games, but will that continue? I'm not sure. So that's one thing. And then his health is another reason why who knows what he's been, but I'm just basing it off of earlier in the season, earlier in his career. If you're someone who's struggling in other positions, Will Fuller is definitely somebody that could give you some assets, high valued assets you can get for Will Fuller.
Yeah, I agree. If you can get somebody that maybe just less injury risk heading into the playoffs, something that's just like going to be secured and solid, go for it. But Will Fuller's been rock solid. Matt, sell high. Who you got?
My sell high is someone that we were also guessing up earlier in the episode, and that's Curtis Samuel.
Kurt. I hate him.
I hate him. Just because I don't think he's going to be as involved as he was the past couple weeks. I mean, last week he had his season high in targets and catches. He caught all of his 9 targets. He obviously had his most receiving yards. He was still running the ball. But I just don't see that happening, especially when they get Christian McCaffrey fully back and they still have DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. I think he's eventually going to be the odd guy out, and he's going to go back to his old ways of 7, 8 fantasy points if you're lucky. I just don't see any consistency in starting Curtis Samuel. But, I mean, maybe you'll get lucky and he might have one of his boom games for you, but I'm not confident in it.
I agree. Definitely sell high on Curtis Samuel if you've got him. Let's get into some Q&A before we get to Q's joke here. A couple questions in the chat. One was from 44 Mike L44. I need to improve my wide receivers, looking to package T. Higgins and DJ Moore for a solid wide receiver. Any suggestions? I think you'd be looking for somebody that's going to be in that wide receiver 2 tier that is like has been consistent.
But maybe you, like you said, maybe you can try and go get an Adam Thielen for that package. I mean, T. Higgins.
I mean, Matt's roster is too good to have to do that. You'd have to go after somebody that has a solid wide receiver, but really struggling at flex, and convince them that DJ Moore / Higgins at their flex would be better. So yeah, if you can get Adam Thielen, go for it. You could go for Kenny Golladay as well. He's a little banged up, but if you're looking for the playoffs, obviously you want someone that's healthy. Maybe a little bit lower would be Brandon Cooks. I would try and get.
Yeah, that was going to be my next suggestion.
I would say try and get one of their bench wide receivers as well in that trade. But those are definitely guys I'd be targeting.
Yeah, definitely don't go for a top tier wide receiver because you're not going to get that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not going to happen. Only other question we had here was thoughts on J.D. McKissic moving forward. We kind of already talked about that. J.D. McKissic should be a flex RB2 if you need him, but like there's no upside there. It's anywhere between 8 and 15 max most weeks. So that's pretty much it. Q, hit us with your joke of the week.
So I was at the diner and the waiter came up and asked, would I like a box for my leftovers? I looked at him. I said, no, but we can wrestle for it.
All right. That took me a second to get, but I did get it. That was pretty good, Q.
That was pretty funny.
I like it. I respect it. All right, that's a wrap. Make sure you're following us on all social medias. That's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. We will be check it. If you have any questions, fantasy questions, hit us in the DMs on any of those platforms. We'll answer back as quickly as we can. We're checking it pretty much daily. We're also on TikTok, and make sure you're following on Twitch and subscribed if you are not, and on YouTube as well. Other than that, that's a wrap. Peace out. We will see you tomorrow live at 7:00 p.m. sharp for Thursday Night Football preview.
Yes, sir.